Tell me about that year you won. You said that you alluded to something. I don't know.
So
exactly
yeah, it's an interesting story. So kind of crazy, but first part of the year doing great. Everything's going good. I was undefeated, I think, the first part of the year. Making weight was never an issue. I was a big 33-pounder for the most part, but never really, not sucking too much. Did really good the first semester. Went back home, got hurt, kind of undisclosed injury that I had. Got real big. Came back at I was probably as big as 47, 48 coming back after that injury a little
33.
bit. Yeah, and we went to Hawaii in that crazy tournament we did. There was 4 or 5 teams in Hawaii, and they're like, oh, this is cool. And I was like, okay, it's just different travel. But yeah, I mean, because you're there for wrestling, not really vacation terms, And I missed weight there. I was probably the lowest I got was about 140. I just had a really hard time coming back and doing it the right way, and didn't have a lot of time, to make it. And finally, I got down to 134 pounds for NC State, didn't make it, and Coach Cody brought me kind of into the office and was like, you're done, we can't do this anymore, and I kind of, in my mind, we talked a little bit, and I was just like, I think you're right, I can't do it, I'm not having fun, I'm not enjoying this, and I don't feel good, and sorry, reverse back to that. I did have one loss. It was Earl Hall at home. I had gotten beat in the first part. I was trying to think back. I was like, maybe I wasn't undefeated. But scrap that. Go to 4. I'm talking to Coach Cody, and he's kind of like, I don't know. This isn't going to work. You missed. I missed 3 or 4 competitions probably coming back. Things I should have wrestled in. Weight management. I was like, hey. I remember he was like, you're done. I was like, I'm done. This is fine. I'm done. I'm walking out. Walked out of the wrestling room, sprinted down the street, got to the middle of the street, dropped to my knees, and I don't know what it was. People tell you hear things, whatever, whether it was God, I don't know what it was, but something was like, you can't quit. You can't be done. You're too good. You can't be done. And I don't know if it was a voice. I don't know what it was. I'm bawling in the middle of the street, and we're about to duel in 30 minutes at NC State at home, and I'm just kind of in that, in that state of mind where I was done. I was broke. I was like, I'm not wrestling again. This is it. And I got up, walked back in the room, told Coach Cody, I said, I apologize. I want to do whatever I can to wrestle. And he kind of looked at me and was like, are you sure? He's like, if you come back, you got to come back full force. You got to make weight, and you got to do it the right way. And I was like, I want to do it. I'll do whatever it takes. We had a match on Sunday, West Virginia, and I said, I'll make it on Sunday. So I come back Sunday, I weighed in. I got to the room that day, a bunch of nerves, a bunch of things going through my head, just that, I just quit a day and a half ago, and so I told him I weighed in. I came in to weight 33.2 before the warm-up, and I was like, I'm making it today. Yeah. Today's the day I'm making it. I'm back in the lineup. And I think it was hard on him. I mean, I was a 2-time All-American. I was, one of his guys, and it's tough on him, to be like, you're done. I can't do this no more, and I wasn't doing it the right way and just kind of taking shortcuts, and it made me, look at it a lot differently now from the nutrition aspect of like, geez, what was I doing, and so I get to wrestle West Virginia. I think I beat that kid major or whatever it was. I went back and I hear Coach Cody doing interviews with a couple of the people, and it was fun. It wasn't funny to me, I guess, but funny to this day that, they're like, how great is it to have Cody Brewer back in the lineup,
Oh, no.
And Coach Cody's kind of like, it's good, because he's upset with me a little bit still, and I totally understand it now from a coaching perspective. I get it a little bit more now, and so I get to that point. Earlier in the year, this made a little bit of a difference, I think, for me mentally. I'm trying to think. We wrestled Oregon State at home, and that coach, I'm losing the train of thought, Oregon State's head coach, Zaleski, who was a guy that I looked up to when I was a kid, came over to Coach Cody after duel and said, you got the best 33-pounder in the country. And he told Coach Cody that. Coach Cody then told me, and I think that was things I was thinking about through all that of like, man, there's other coaches in the country that think you can win it. And they're not even on their own team. Yeah. You know what I mean? They're not with you in the room every day. They don't know. And then the biggest one, so I get through it all, win Big 12s, my first time winning Big 12s. Get through it all, wrestled really well. My weight was good, doing a really good job maintaining. And wrestling well, felt good. Coach Cody had told me, I don't know if he waited to tell me or when it was, but he said, I talked to Smith after Big 12s, and he says you're the best 33-pounder in the country.
Brian or John?
John. And for me, looking up to that guy, another guy, we were rivals, not huge fans of Oklahoma State, but to hear that from his mouth, to be like, man, that guy thinks I can win it too, and I was kind of on a roll at that point. I get to the NCAA tournament. I wrestled really well in the first couple matches. Johnny Julius, a guy that I, lost to before, I ended up beating him, wrestling really well, scoring a lot of points on people. I get to the semis and I'm warming up, and I got my long sleeve on. I remember the exact, right where I was, and I'm walking across, and coaches, are all telling me, and things are going well, and semis, I wrestled Dardanes in the semis, big match, number 1 seed, and John walks by me in the semis match, and he kind of looked at me and he was like, good luck out there. And it was like the only time he'd ever talked to me in my career. And I was like, all right, and you don't want to, I was a Sooner, heart of heart, but to hear that from a legendary coach, it was kind of crazy. And my coaches were telling me the same thing, but to hear from one of those guys, you're like, all right, I can do this. And that was, I think, I don't think that necessarily made me feel like, oh, you're going to win it. But I was like, man, a lot of people think I can win it, and you just look at it, whether it was coaches, family, whoever it was, and then I wrestled really good in the semis, win the finals, win a national title, and, it all went by so quick, and I'm thinking about it before, and I was like, man, I was not picked to win it by very many people, but there was a couple people out there that thought I should win it, and including all my coaches, all the people that knew me were like, you're going to win it, no doubt in your mind, and then it ends up happening. And that all some of a year of almost quitting, being done, to 2 months later, I'm in the NCAA finals winning it. And you hear about crazy stories, and that's why, we've had all these flow stories, and I've seen them on. I'm like, man, these are probably better than mine, but, it's kind of a crazy story on how it all happens and how you think about it, and you're like, oh my God, and I looked, back at it to this day, and, I watched the film on it afterwards, but I was like, this is on ESPN. I was the guy on ESPN, like all those kids maybe watching me. I was that kid watching that NCAA finals, wrestling with a pillow, saying that I'm going to win it, and then it ended up happening, and crazy thing, and then, fast forward to my senior year, don't win it, take third, wrestled Nashawn Garrett's a tough opponent, and end up wrestling him kind of, I'm all over ESPN that next day, but for getting pinned in the semifinals in about 20-something seconds, and so it translated. I ended up coming back and taking third. I tell people that's probably the one I'm most proud of in a way, because the adversity that I had to deal with was kind of crazy. I wasn't really used to the cameras, being in my face as far as the returning national champ.
Yeah.
Vegas, I remember, I had so much pressure. I mean, just an unbelievable amount of pressure of being returning national champ, being in the Vegas finals again. I was wrestling really well, but guys would do, dirty stuff to me. Coaches were yelling at me. I'm just not used to the mental warfare that really went into it. I was always pretty good to stay composed, but man, it was a whole different, guys jabbed me in the eye, grabbed my finger. It just was a whole, and it's not necessarily dirty. That's just all mental warfare that I didn't know, that really existed when you're the champ. When I was always that guy that was hungry and chasing, it was different. When I'm the guy getting chased, I didn't do well at first with the pressure of that, of just wrestling, and then I get to the NCAA tournament and finally got it back a little bit of just wrestling. Even after I lost, I was like, I got to take third. You can't go out on a loss, and wrestled well, took third, and like I said, I was really proud of that moment to come back and do the adversity like I did, because a lot of people would be like, returning national champ, I'm done. I don't really want to wrestle anymore. It's my senior year, and so I ended up, taking third, came back, and finished my career out, there, which is what I wanted, and obviously third's not the goal. It should have been a 2-time national champ, it should have been probably 3-time finalist, whatever it may have been, but I finished it the way I wanted in that aspect, and I think most people look at it as, they had a lot of people come up to me and like, you scored a lot of points in the NCAA tournament. I don't think you realize what you did until after you did it, and Coach Cody always talked about it, and it's like he scored 59 points, in the NCAA tournament in 5 matches, and that's something that I'll always remember. I'll tell my kids one day that hey, your dad used to be pretty good. maybe not anymore, and I may not look it when I have kids, but I used to be pretty good, and that's a huge thing I have going forward, that I think it makes it easier coaching now, knowing that it's not about me anymore. It's not about what I did in my career. It was great, but now I get to focus on these guys and hopefully get them to the stage, as well. So.